I believe we are live. Yay. Welcome everyone to another Facebook Live at Core with Shandra and Freida. And
Hello.
we are so happy to be chatting with you today. And specifically, the focus of our live today is how to get out of survival mode, which so many of us are stuck in. And instead, what would it look like to give yourself like a spa day for your soul? What would it look like to do something really nourishing and rejuvenating and like being and yummy for your soul? Which I know for myself, I'm really craving in today's world and today's society and in my everyday life. So when we say like how to get out of survival mode, what am I even really talking about with that? Well, one of the big problems with navigating, a pandemic and a world that looks really different than we probably could have expected, 8 months ago in January is that with COVID, with, adjusting to working from home or losing income or jobs, to sometimes either living with your family or partner nonstop and being around them nonstop, or managing online school for your kids, as well as work. Or maybe it's that you live on your own and you're dealing with that loss of connection. Like with so many stressors that are going on in our lives and really heightened stressors, so many of us are just living in survival mode. We're in this constant place of like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, just trying to kind of like keep our heads down and make it through. And what I've at least seen in my own journey is like, while that can work for a month or two, like I get absolutely wrecked and drained if I continue that way. It's like now that we're in, I don't even know what month it is of COVID, but
Over 6 months.
over 6 months, like I have noticed such an intense, it's like all of that survival mode, getting through, fighting, managing, dealing with stress and overwhelm and fear or anxiety and sadness and disconnection is like now really starting to take its toll on me. Like 6 months of constantly being on or going is really starting to take its toll on me. And I know for a lot of people in our world and in our society.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's definitely one of the things I think many of us are really struggling with and facing. And so this is, yeah, a big problem that I feel like at least I am and a lot of us are dealing with is like this being constantly in the survival mode or survivor mode.
Absolutely. And there is an impact on us when we're just like in perpetual survival. I mean, it's like the experience of just, our necks and shoulders and just our bodies just holding and just being so tight, just like this tension that we're like managing, and it doesn't go away. It just seems to just keep going on and on and on. And we can have the experience of like being on eggshells with the people that we live with, with family, with children. It's just tight. It's just so tight. I think you can get the ow, so tight. And on top of all of that, so if we're holding all this tension and tightness, we're also very lonely and disconnected because we don't have those places to be social, like our churches, or even like going to the movies or going to a sporting event, like all the things where we can connect with others under a common cause, or like, just something where we can be together in community. And so that's also such a negative impact on us. And so when we're in survival, we don't get to do something yummy and wonderful for ourselves because we're just trying to keep it together, just holding tightness. It's just sort of like living life without any pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And it's, I love what you just said. It's like living life without any pleasure or just running on fumes, running on empty, like without those things that used to fill us up, that used to like rejuvenate us, like, like a hug, like literally a hug. I miss hugs and being in person. And it's almost like we keep surviving, we keep going, we keep running, doing. Um, yeah, and it's like, but there's no pleasure, there's no like actually filling ourselves back up. So it's just running on empty.
Right.
Yeah.
Like where does like being like sensual happen, like the things that we know in our work that just really fill us up and charge our batteries. Like our batteries are drained.
Yeah.
Like we need some charging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, that goes along with that is like this impact of running on fumes, of not feeling good, of not like, feeling disconnected, of feeling lonely. Like, what's at stake then is like we kind of, I feel like as we're just kind of shriveling up at some point and just feel like we're slowly dying. Like, I even actually had this, I remember this was a few weeks ago, but one of the things I try to put in place to support myself was like I have weekly calls with one of my best friends. And every week we share a high and a low. And most of the time in my life, like before COVID, it was easy to share a high or a low. It was easy to think through like the richness of my week, what I've been going through. And I had just noticed like when I was trying to share a high and low, it was consistently, honestly, hard to think of a high, to think of something good that was like pleasure giving. And it just like has this like numbed out or like shriveled up feeling inside. And yeah, and when I constantly work too much, do too much, or in that like fighting of that survivor mode, I know I feel really unfulfilled and just kind of small and like just, yeah, like almost lacking any sort of vitality, any sort of joy.
Wow. Yeah, and we also just like can put others before us in that, that same place of just in that survival. There also is this space of we're so focused on taking care of others, that we aren't taking care of ourselves, and just, we're sacrificing like our own well-being just in survival.
Yeah. Yeah. Which actually, I think you spoke to that really key piece, which is, this survivor mode like often looks like we go into either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which are essentially different trauma responses, right? And so our nervous system goes into these responses to try to literally survive, to just make it through. And so we can either have like something more on the fight or flight side, like that's really on and going and pushing, or even like the fawn side, like what you said of like almost like putting everyone else's needs before our own, putting ourselves last. Or it can look like the freezing, where we just completely numb out. And I think with this of constantly either being stuck in that like on place where we're like always on edge, always like ready, always going, or if we're like or giving, or if we're stuck in that like off numb place, it's like our nervous systems get wrecked, and so then what doesn't work is like just constantly staying in this place. It actually has an enormous toll on our nervous systems, on our bodies, on our health, our like physical health, our emotional well-being, and mental health. And so like within that, like what doesn't work is consistently like playing into these things of like the fight. So what that looks like is like just trying to push and just keep making it through, just keep making it through. One day I'll just keep going, I'll keep going, I'll keep going, I'll keep working. It's one more event, one more thing, right? Or what it can look like is even some sort of flight response of like toxic positivity. And what we mean by that is like just being like, it's fine, it's totally okay. It's okay. Yeah. And you can like see something else is like happening, but not like tending to those tender places, right? And just like putting on this facade of like, it's cool. I'm good, which isn't true. It's like fleeing away from those emotions. Or, yeah, were you going to say something?
Well, I was also thinking in the fight is, are you finding yourself just really irritated with people and just ending up fighting, like with your partner or your kids or just family, especially considering like the political climate right now? There's a lot going on. And so do you find yourself just being so defensive, just like fight, I've got to like protect like what's mine and what's, how I'm feeling. And so I feel like there's the fight within us, like fighting what we're dealing with, and then there's how are we engaging with others? Like do you just find like literally everyone is wrong? and you just want to like fight the world. I think that's also another expression that we can be so tense that we're just perpetually triggered and like at people and just like
Yeah, yeah. I actually had never, thank you for bringing it up. Like, I don't think I'd even made that correlation within myself, but you're right. It's like this constantly pushing and striving and fighting to like just survive also then shows up as we're constantly irritated, defended with the world around us, right? And walled off and fighting. Yeah. And so, and I don't know, like, at least for me, I can speak to like that doesn't work either. Like, I feel
yeah.
so drained at the end of the day after I'm like fighting and like pushing and going and super defensive, like, and not able to even connect with another human being and like open my heart. Whether it's my partner or whether it's my family or whether it's like random people around me.
Right. I mean, what we need, I mean, it's like that's such a perfect bridge, Shandra, because I feel like what we are all just craving is connection. We just want to be connected and we want to be in a safe place. We don't have to try. Can you imagine having a space to not have to try and like, trying to keep it together, trying to like do it, right? I mean, it's just like, what would it be like to be in a space where you don't have to try and you could actually just like drop into your body and like, you know, explore, like, because sometimes we just have been operating from up here, just in our heads. Like, what if we drop down and like go into what's happening for us in the physical realm and having an embodied experience? And all of this would so help calm our nervous systems if we could just drop in, connect, and ultimately, what's missing for so many of us is really feeling our innate goodness. That we are good. Like, I'm a good person. And you are a good person. Like, seeing the goodness in others. And really, if we could just take the time to just unwrap, all that we're holding, unravel, and just kind of come into space just to be held and supported and connect and be in our bodies. I mean, that's what our nervous systems need. That's what our survivor self really wants, to be able to turn off that survival mode.
Yeah. Yeah. And that thing of what you just said of like, this is what we do is we connect. We take a moment to slow down and actually prioritize ourselves. And this doesn't necessarily mean like prioritize yourself, which I've done this of like, oh, I'll take a 5-minute walk outside, which I've done that. And sometimes that's all we can do. What would it like? But I'm still even from that place operating from like, I have to go, I have to push, I have to keep going. And so, what would it look like to slow down and almost, yeah, give yourself like a little spa day for your soul, where you don't have to be the one holding anything, giving anything to anyone, or managing anything. You don't have to strive or push, or like you said, try, or to be anyone other than you are, where there's no mask that you have to wear. Like mask of like, oh, I've got it together, I'm fine, so that way it doesn't impact my family or the people around me, like, but rather actually like, this is me and I'm done pretending. And then where you get to have really supportive connection to fulfill those needs. So again, that you can like get out of survivor mode and actually replenish your cup, actually fuel yourself, right? Like actually
Charge your
nourish.
battery.
Yeah, charge your battery.
Charge your battery. Wow.
And so much of that is important. I think you spoke to a really key thing is it's not also doing it on your own. I think this time is so much about like what we're seeing is a lot of defensiveness, individuation, or like isolation, like me versus you, like all of these things. And what would it actually look like to let ourselves be supported, or to let yourself be supported, to let yourself be healed, and to let
Spa
yourself,
for the soul.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, to take some dedicated time to really tend to yourself. Because I think otherwise, without that like really conscious, like I'm going to tend to myself, I think again, any of us will naturally in this state of the world go back into survivor mode or be in survivor mode, like just unconsciously. So it's just so important to be really conscious and aware of
that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and even, like even as you and I talk about it, I feel my nervous system settling.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Same here.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, like I can breathe more deeply, feel more at ease. And I think that's really the work in what we do is give ourselves that space and time and to be ourselves. So, and with that, we invite you all, if that's something you're longing for, is like a spa weekend for your soul. If you are longing for a chance to get out of survivor mode, if you are longing for a chance to be refueled, to be nourished, to be loved, to be reconnected to your goodness and the goodness of other people around you and the goodness in this world, and if you're ready to like tend to some of those tender places, like give them some love so they can receive some healing balm, we invite you to come to our next women's immersion weekend. And so that's October 24th and 25th. So it's next Saturday and Sunday. And both Frida and I will be there as facilitators. And we would love to have you. We would love to be the ones that hold you, where you don't have to be the big one giving to everyone else in your life or doing it all, or having to be stuck on go mode, where you can pause and relax and receive and give some soothing to your nervous system. And anything else you want to say about the Women's Immersion Weekend? I know you were with us last time too.
I got to participate in the immersion last month, and I felt I felt a calmness and a soothing energy that I feel like I haven't had since before COVID. I literally felt like I was taking a spa day, or like with a bunch of wonderful women, and we just got to connect and feel safe and be in our bodies. And I came out of that weekend like so refreshed, like I went on vacation. Like I went on a 2-day vacation from the comfort of my own home, which was so amazing. I got to eat my own food, I got to have all my things, but then I felt so restored. And I think, like 7 months into COVID, I think many of us could really use a spa time for our souls and for our hearts.
Yeah. So if any of this resonates for you, and if you, yeah, we'll go ahead and place the link for the website in the comments where you can learn more about our Women's Immersion Weekend. And if you're ready to register, you can register as well. So either way, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully even, listening to this or maybe later today, you get a moment to like push pause and nourish yourself, and even giving yourself a little like mini spa moment where you just get to receive and recharge. Hopefully bring some soothing and some ease to that beautiful nervous system of yours. So
Absolutely. We would love
yeah.
to have you with us.
So we love you all a lot. If you have any questions, you can also place them in the comments. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye.